Wilson in Englewood, Colorado, just down the street. Hey, Paul. Hey, Wilson. From the sporadic camera shots during your videos, it looks like the Octave Studio control room is not acoustically treated and everything looks thrown together. I'm sorry. Can you give us a tour of the control and the live rooms of Octave Records? How do you achieve such excellent sounding recordings? P.S. Thanks for answering my question on cable gauges for our church system. Okay, well, don't stand out here very often. When you come to PS Audio for a tour or to listen to the Aspen speakers, this is where you kind of wind up and you get to see our friend Nipper here. And I think probably good idea. Let's head over to Octave Records and I'll give you a bit of a tour, okay? Come on along. Well, welcome to the lobby, such as it is. It's a small little lobby, but welcome to the lobby of Octave Records. We've been asked to give a tour of Octave Records, and I just came from PS Audio, as we refer to it, the mothership. And here we are. It's about 2/3 of a mile from PS Audio. We're in a beautiful little industrial park. We've built this facility at a pretty decent expense, and I'm going to show you around as requested. So today, we're going to have a look at the control room. Tomorrow, we'll have a look at the tracking room. And the day after, we'll have a look at the mix room. So come on, let's have a look at the control room. Welcome to Octave Records control room. I'm right behind the camera, and I just want to give you kind of a view. Here's where musicians, producers sit. There's our picture of the Beatles. And as we swing around here, my lousy little tripod, you can see the whole room. Over there, that door to the left is the ISO room, and over here is the main console. Okay. Yeah, it's me. Behind that window is the tracking room. This is our console. And just so you know, we built all of this from the ground up, from scratch. Like this console, even though it's made up of Avid little surface decks, was something that we kind of created. Our mechanical designer, Chet, built this table, the little armrest that makes it look cool, put together these monitors. These are surface controllers. These are how we control the mix, okay? Nothing to do with the sound, all right? So these are like big mice. You can actually do it from here, but they're just like big mice, and no sound goes through these mixers, okay? And in fact, no sound actually goes through all of this, because the way that we record using what we call the Pyramix system, which is a kind of a little known digital audio workstation. Pyramix is used, Disneyland, theme parks, giant orchestras, big productions, okay? Pyramix is a network-based system. It's very expensive. It's very complicated. Oh my God. I mean, our chief engineer and myself, Bob Stather, our chief engineer, and myself, we have pulled our hair out trying to figure Pyramix out. But from a sonic standpoint, there is just nothing better. Why? Because it's based on DSD. Everything we record is in DSD 256. And for those of you that watch this channel on a regular basis, you know what I'm referring to. And I'll try and explain it. DSD is a very little used format developed by Philips and Sony, and it is by far the best sounding format for capturing music. It's very close to analog without any of the problems of analog. What most people, 99.999% of the world uses is PCM, pulse code modulation. And pulse code modulation, which is Pro Tools, just about everything out there, with few exceptions, it is great, but it doesn't have that analog capture transparency and musicality that DSD has. DSD, PDM, pulse density modulation, is very close to analog. So, for example, as I have said before, you can take a pulse density modulation, a single bit stream, as produced by this or however means you got it. You can take it, run it through a power amplifier directly, just the digital code coming out into a power amplifier, and music will come gloriously out of your speakers because it's almost analog. If you tried to do that with PCM, you'd get either nothing or noise, because PCM is a means of taking these snapshots, converting it to a digital number, storing that digital number, converting that digital number back into something resembling an analog signal, filtering it, blah, blah, woof, woof. With pulse density modulation, you are doing the same snapshots, but instead of running where we do at PCM rates, let's say 96,000 times a second, we take a snapshot on a PCM system, turn it into a digital number, and then back again. In a proper PDM DSD system like Pyramix, we do that 11 million times a second. 96,000 times a second for PCM, 11 million times a second for DSD. That's a big difference. And the bandwidth required, we've had to build special computers, all of that. So we can do up to 32 channels here. The person who asked to have this explained and a bit of a tour also mentioned that this looks thrown together. Well, we didn't quite throw it together, but maybe it's not as slick as some of the other rooms. You might notice the speakers over here. These are the FR20s. Now, the FR20s are a terrific loudspeaker, but you might notice that they look kind of weird. There's a white piece here and then a MDF raw wood piece there. These were the original prototype FR20s, and because we own PS Audio, we get our choice of whatever we want, and I don't see, I mean, we already spent $250,000 building this studio, and we're not a big label, for goodness sakes. I mean, we do our best, but so we take what we can get. I mean, these sound identical to a brand new pair of FR20s. They just don't look so cool, and maybe that's part of what he's referring to. Over here, this is the patch bay, and up here we patch from the studio. We have a patch bay out there where we use balanced interconnects, XLR connectors, to take the output of a microphone, goes into a patch here. We plug it into the input to one of these preamplifiers. From the output of the preamplifier, we go into one of these A to D converters. These are the Merging Technologies A to D converters. There is 32 channels here of A to D converters, 16 per piece. These are some of the finest A to D converters in the world. They're amazing. Everything DSD 256. And these are my favorite preamplifiers. We have the 4 cells, we have the Grace, all great preamplifiers, but my favorite are the vacuum tube Manleys. Ivana Manley has made some glorious products here. So every recording that I make, you'll hear it through the Manley vacuum tube preamplifiers. It goes from there directly into the computer, okay? So it bypasses this whole board. This whole thing is sort of a fancy monitoring system. The signal never really goes through this. So if you picture the chain, you've got a microphone, goes into a Manley vacuum tube preamplifier, goes into the Pyramix merging analog to digital converter, converted to DSD-256, and then directly recorded onto the hard drive. That's the path. Now, what's interesting about the way a digital audio workstation operates is it is what we call non-volatile. It isn't actually doing anything to the signal up here. So when I play something,
just before our love got lost, you said, I am as constant as a northern star, and I said, constantly in the darkness, where's that at? If you want me, I'll be in the bar, on the back of a cartoon core.
So all that I just did there by changing these controls did nothing to the original recording. This is just a monitoring system. So the way we do the recordings is very pure and clean, directly onto that. Then we use this Pyramix-based system to make what we call a rough mix. We can turn the pan pots, we can turn the volume controls up and down, we can do all of that stuff on this system, and it doesn't actually change the original files ever. When we mix it, we'll go through that later. Then it doesn't actually affect the actual files, but it turns the volume up and down, mixes, does all that kind of stuff. So this is where we do the rough mix. We get it sounding kind of the way we want. Now this is a very important part of the process. Why? Well, much of the way something sounds, almost entirely the way something sounds on a recording, is a function of the microphone we use, the way the microphone is set up, the room that it's captured in, and how it's placed. Okay? So if I listen and I hear Katie singing and I think she needs a bit more body, what am I going to do? Well, we don't use EQ. I'm going to take that microphone and either change the microphone to one that has more body, or I'll move it a little bit closer to Katie and get more proximity effect, get some more chest into it so that it sounds the way I want. That's why these speakers are so critical. They have to be flat, they have to be transparent, and they have to give me a good representation of what I'm hearing, because if they're coloring the sound, if they're doing something that is artificial, I'm going to try and make up for that by moving the microphone back and forth, which has a huge effect on the way it sounds. So these have to be accurate, and they have to represent what I'm really capturing onto tape. Are they perfect? No. But they're pretty close. They get us reasonably close. So that's basically the process without taking too much of your time. I would want to say one thing. In a perfect world, of which I have never been a part of in my entire 76 years, I would love to have two rooms. One is my control room that's hooked right up to the tracking room, and it is absolutely identical to my mix room, because that would be really, really wonderful. Unfortunately, it's not practical. I still need to be able to see the musicians. We've even discussed turning the mix room into the recording room using closed circuit television and all of that, and that's a consideration. But you know, part of it is also comfort, part of it is practicality. I've got producers sitting over here listening. There's no room in the mix room to do that, etc. So yeah, no such thing as a perfect world. Okay. I hope this quick little tour gave you an idea of what we do at Octave Records. It's a lot of fun. It's a passion project. Octave Records hangs on because of your support and buying the products that we make. These are some of the best recordings out there today, and we're pretty proud of them. So if you have a chance, go to octaverecords.com, give a listen to some of the samples, and support us and musicians, and we'd be very appreciative.